Hello, welcome back to the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike and Yaniv, welcome back. And you brought a buddy with you.
Thank you.
So, Yaniv, for those people that didn't watch our episode before, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Heike. Happy to be here. Yaniv Shasha. I'm a principal product manager in the Copilot for security customer experience engineering team, working with customers every day to bring generative AI into the security area.
Thank you. And whom did you bring with you?
Wow, I bring a good friend and a very smart guy. Some can say that smarter than me. Craig?
Well, those are some big shoes to fill. Thanks, Yaniv. Hi, Heike. My name is Craig. I'm a technical specialist with Microsoft. I work specifically on Copilot for security. I help customers understand the value of the product and help implement initial use cases to get them rolling. Happy to be here.
So you're working with customers every day. So what are some examples, some use cases that you hear from customers that are wanting this automation?
So a great place for Logic Apps and Copilot for security is a broad topic of just enrichment in general. Think of enrichment as extra information on entities like a URL, a domain, an email, for example. Generative AI and Logic Apps do a great job of helping the analysts get a head start on whatever process they're working. In the case of phishing, for example, an analyst typically has to go through a shared mailbox and identify if there are legitimate phishing emails in that inbox. Copilot for security and Logic Apps give the analyst a head start on that entire process.
Wow. Yeah, those sound like good examples. Yaniv, anything from your customers?
Yeah, just to add on what Craig mentioned about the enrichment. So enrichment is nice and beauty, but we can do enrichment with the traditional also automation part. So the beauty of generative AI and automation is after that you are going more easily with Copilot to enrich to VirusTotal, to MDTI, to Entra, bringing all this insight from this component. Then, because the data is part of the session context, Copilot can bring some insight. Craig created some example that we can do false true about a URL, if it's malicious or not. And then this junction point, this decision that Copilot made based on all the data that we collected, can lead us to other automation or other action maybe that we can do. So the combination of the smart of the generative AI, the enrichment, the API that we can call to external sources, this is the glue, this is the key here.
Wow, okay. So we talked about Copilot for security. It comes, of course, in, let's call it 2 flavors. One of them is multiple flavors. So the standalone experience, and then we have all these embedded experiences. And then there is Logic Apps. And we did not yet, I don't know if we did an episode on Logic Apps, but can one of you please explain in simple words, what is Logic Apps and what are all the different pieces within Logic App to make something work?
So a Logic App is a low-code, no-code design environment that is there for you to build workflows. When you have a defined use case, you can build a Logic App. A Logic App involves a trigger of some sort. There are hundreds of options for the trigger, and it's sort of a combination of traditional computing in that steps are taken, and then we mix in some Copilot for security in there, and we get the best of both worlds.
You mix it in there. And when you say you mix in there, because I mentioned before, we have that standalone, but also embedded experience. Are these automations, do they work in both worlds?
As of now, the automation story, Copilot for security that sit on top of Logic App can implement the free open prompt experience. So if we can lean it between the embedded and the standalone, it's more of a standalone interface, of course, in an automated way. The human doesn't need to enter the prompt book. And the starting point can be, as Craig mentioned, a trigger on event when a new email is come, when a new file is written to a OneDrive. So we can take all the input that come in from this event and then run series of prompts on top of it. And the beauty, Heike and Craig, is that we are not only obligated to a prompt. We can go outside to an API, do some API call, bring the data back into the session context, and continue with the prompt. So the play inside, outside is great here. We are not obligated to stay inside Copilot for security. We can go outside, reach information, return it into the session context, and continue with the investigation. As you can see, I'm super passionate about it, Heike.
I knew that you were going crazy with that topic. So it is not a trigger, basically my response or my prompt. My trigger is something totally different. And this is how what you mentioned, that we sprinkle in some Copilot for security. And wow, okay. So I think before we keep talking, let's have a look at the demo, and then I have probably a lot of more questions.
Cool. So we're looking at a blank logic app with a simple trigger, and we're going to click on the plus and add an action. From here, we simply search for Copilot, and we see we've got our Copilot for security action. We've got two options. The top one is actually brand new. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The bottom one allows us to submit a prompt to Copilot for security. This is as simple as if you were in the standalone session. You can type whatever you want here. We can include variables from the Logic app. This is really where the power of Logic apps and Copilot for security come together.
And this is the same as using the standalone experience. So this is the standalone experience. It will go with the orchestrator to find where the answer is for that question.
Exactly right.
Wow.
The second option we have here is to run a Copilot for security prompt book. This is brand new. We're very excited about this.
Wow.
When you click the down arrow, we get a pre-populated set of prompt books. As you can see here, we've got our list, and these come directly from your Copilot for security instance. For example, when I go to my prompt book library, you can see that we've got all the same prompt books here. And just a quick reminder on prompt books, they allow us to run a series of predefined prompts to typically give you some enrichment. Mm-hmm. So in this example, we've got our script analysis. We would simply paste our script in here, click play, and the prompt book would run for us.
Okay, just from my own understanding. So your first action was, who am I? And then you selected a prompt book. So you would usually probably have something in the middle that is, okay, when the answer of this question is Fu or Craig, then do this, right? So right now this doesn't make any sense, or does it make sense?
It does not make any sense.
Okay, good. Yeah. I just wanted to understand. Good.
You're too sharp.
No, this was great because, I build a few logic apps myself for the Ninja certificates. If someone already got one, it's a logic app behind it. And it's amazing. But you have to get used to it. You have to learn. You have to try out. And this is important. I think this is super important to understand. There's a trigger, then there's the actions, then there's maybe conditions, and start small for everyone. Don't go over the place. So start with a few steps and then build it out. Just my little advice.
That's very true. It can get complex quickly. From a troubleshooting perspective, it's quite helpful to just go one step at a time.
Yes. So what is the next demo that you show us here?
All right, so this is the main event. So this is the solution that Yaniv and I have been working on. I'm going to first walk you through the architecture of it, kind of how it works at a high level. So this will analyze user-submitted spear phishing emails. We monitor a shared inbox. So here's my shared inbox.
When you say sends, is this the reported button in Office, or how do these email get sent to the shared box?
Typically, it's through some kind of button, depending on
Mhm.
who you're using and how they're getting there.
Okay.
The common scenario is it's going to end up in a shared inbox like that.
Mhm.
So as we begin processing the email, the Logic app activates, and we've added a little thing right here called a function app. We could do a whole nother hour on what function apps are and how cool they are. Just know that that's a little piece of Python code that's basically extracting elements from the email that will be interesting to analyze, such as the
Mhm.
headers, as you see here. So what you're looking at is Copilot for Security integration, where we have a defined prompt that we've carefully written so that we get consistent results. And all of those little purple icons in there are variables. Those
Mhm.
variables have been established through the Python and set in the Logic app. Bottom line, this is already built. You don't have to worry about any of that. And what this is going to do, it's going to analyze those email headers. And this is just the first step of many that we're going to take in understanding if this email is in fact a phishing email. Obviously, bad guys like to send attachments. So if there are attachments in the email, we're going to analyze those. Copilot for Security with Logic Apps gives you some capabilities that you might not have known you had before. And what we're talking about here is direct skill invocations. What this means is we can essentially skip the orchestration in the planner. Copilot for Security doesn't need to think about where to go get a plugin. You're basically telling it, go use this plugin, go use this skill,
Mhm.
and that's what we're doing here. There are a lot of benefits in doing this. One is it's more cost effective, and the second is that it's faster.
Mhm. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and we need to do a better job to expose this name of the skills, and we are working on it.
Thank you. Yeah, of course, there's always something we can improve.
So this is pretty cool too, because with Copilot for Security, if you're not aware, you get Microsoft Defender Threat Intelligence, which is a very valuable threat intelligence platform. And that's what we're doing here. We are enriching information from that email. Specifically here, we're enriching IP addresses and trying to figure out if they are in fact known malicious.
Mhm.
Now, a really cool part about this, and an important little hack, if you will, is that in a Logic app, when you're using multiple prompts, you want the session to contain all of those prompts because we're going to do something at the end. And the way that we do that is actually through that session ID option.
Mhm.
That session ID is pointing to the original prompt, and that's how we can keep the session the same throughout.
Mhm.
Now, my favorite part here, the secret sauce, if you will, is the intent. So we have extracted the email body, and the prompt is trying to understand the intent of this email. And we've specifically engineered this prompt so that it will identify signs of phishing. This prompt will work really well out of the box for most organizations, but if I were you, I would add additional details specific to your organization.
And because I know people love these examples, and usually most common question is, where can I get this? Yaniv, or we have a GitHub repository
Yes,
for
yes,
Copilot
yes,
for Security. Is this where people can find that?
yes. It will be there. We have a couple of versions. The version that Craig is showing will be there soon.
Thank you.
And finally, the most important part really is the summary. And so this final step, we're going to finalize and score that email that we're analyzing. And then ultimately we can send that email to a recipient. We could update a ticket. We could open a ticket, close a ticket, whatever you want to do at the end there. And so now let's talk about what happens when an email comes in. When it hits the inbox, you're going to see a status of running. As you can see, it's taken under 3 minutes to analyze the samples that I'm about to show you. And then when it's finished, it shows succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
So in our shared inbox here, I'm going to give you the easy example. This is the one we hope that it's going to identify. This is definitely a phishing email. You can see this link here. Actually, you can't see the link, but that points to a Google Storage API location. None of this makes any sense. This is 100% a phishing email. So let's see how Copilot for Security in the Logic app, let's see what it decided. So I've got my summary here that's been emailed to me. And you can see here we've got context for each of the subjects. And you can see we've got these little tidbits of insight here. This is the coolest part about this platform.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It is figured out that there's a sense of urgency. It's used a generic greeting. The domain has nothing to do with the Facebook marketplace. This is a very easy example. Mm-hmm. And frankly, MDO would have caught this.
Yeah. You mean Defender for Office 365?
Yeah. But again, the beauty here is also the explanatory of the generative AI, how it break it, as Craig mentioned, and explain step by step why the system think that this is a phishing email.
I love it. I mean, this is always, everybody is eager to learn and to understand, and just getting to a conclusion and say, this is what, it is not, or it is, doesn't help anyone, right? So why did the system, the AI, decide it is phishing? Super important. Yeah.
So that was the easy one. What I failed to mention until now is that in my former life, I was a red teamer for 15 years.
Oh, now you're telling us that, right?
I am a reformed bank robber. I left a very exciting job to come work with Yaniv. I'm having more fun now. Hard to believe. So I'm going to stop here and go back and explain to you what this is. So this is the more challenging example. I really wanted to test to see how good the platform was at identifying something that was a little more sophisticated. As a red teamer breaking into banks, we never sent a payload in the first email. We spent 6 to 8 weeks identifying targets, building infrastructure, payloads, making everything perfect. Our headers are going to be clean. Our domains would be clean. And we would build a rapport with our victims. So in this example, like a crazy person, I was, trying to phish myself. And I had sent several emails back and forth to build that rapport, and then ultimately I ended up sending the phish. So let's see what Copilot for Security figured out. So nothing, no red flags in the headers really. There were no attachments. This is where it gets interesting. The email creates a sense of urgency and asks for personal information, which is a common indicator of phishing. And now, look at this. So it understands that the email that it was sent from really has nothing to do with this other site.
Yeah, but you need to look into this, right? So this is really nasty. Like, this is really something that usually an analyst would have to go through, because everything else is clean.
Yep. So look at that. Another tidbit of insight there. But it comes from a Gmail account, which is suspicious because it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And then the best part is it scored it as likely a phishing email. So you've seen a very easy example. You saw a much more sophisticated example. This is another, softball example, if you will. A lot of the times what we get in our user submitted phishing inbox are false positives. And this is either, through a mistake of our users, it's a difficult problem, but this is another tough example. So what I did here is I took a message I got from the city of Denver about my trash service. And the reason I selected this is because there are some indicators in here that are common with adversary techniques, such as a survey link. But this is definitely a benign email. You can see that the body was analyzed, did not find anything suspicious, nothing suspicious in the domains, and it scored it a 10 out of 100. So it's not likely a phishing email. So I think that's a pretty good showing of the wide capabilities that Copilot for Security and Logic Apps have in general.
Well, Craig, so thank you so much. This was really impressive to see. First of all, of course, there's all the smartness in those emails, but then the more smartness in actually our tools to identify phishing, but also the examples of what's not, and then also how Copilot for Security responds to those. So awesome examples. What do people need to have for that, right? So of course, they need to have Copilot for Security. They need some security compute units.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So they need to spin up a Copilot instance. And then, as you probably know, Copilot for Security is a consumption-based product. So they need to create a compute unit, attach it into the instance itself, and then the logic of the beauty that Craig just showed will use this compute unit in a smart way, because remember, he's doing direct skill invocation and very specific on the prompt and the efficient of the prompt. So it should be very lean from SEO perspective. So, but you are right, yeah.
Okay, and then Azure resources for Logic apps.
Yes.
Also consumption based.
Yes, we have two types, standard and consumption. Both work perfectly, but you need a subscription in Azure. We create a template of this solution, so you need to deploy this template, and then you can use it.
And usually, from my experience, if I try to access something like or write an email or do something, save a file, I'm signing in with my corporate account, which in this case is also the account that has access to Copilot for Security. So people need to make sure the permissions here are granted.
Great point. As of now, Heike, we are only operate on behalf of the user. So currently, no managed identity and service principal. This will also come soon.
Okay. And then what about cost? So is this every time the Logic app runs, or every time it calls Copilot, like every email that gets analyzed? Can people get a feeling for how much will this be for me when I'm implementing such automation?
So from cost perspective, we have the cost of the Logic app itself, and this is really minimal. And Logic app itself expose a calculator in the internet, and I think like the 5,000 or 4,000 runs or action, they are free. So this should be super minimal or couple of cents. We have the cost of the SU, as we mentioned. Each prompt that we are running for Copilot cost SUs. And this is very, very can differentiate based on the email header and the size of but we design it to be very thin. And this can cost like between 2-3 SEUs. This is the average that we measure, but this can change.
But it's the same if I'm running the prompt in the standalone experience, or if Logic app is running the prompt for me, right? So the cost here is not different for analyze the file here or here.
Yeah, we have our technique to make it better in the Logic app, but behind the scene, it's running Copilot prompts, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have so many examples of what people can do with it. And I would love for people out there to tell us their examples if they come across some great use cases that others might be interested in, put them in the comments, let us know. Before we close, my usual question first to you, Craig, is there anything I missed to ask you guys that you would like to bring up or mention, learning resources or anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this kind of piqued your interest, got the wheels turning a little bit. This is just one example on a whole new frontier of possibilities with Copilot for security. Yaniv and I are focusing a lot on the enrichment topic in general, and we're going to help a lot of security operations centers save a lot of time. Play with this. It's really cool stuff. I think once you start using it, it'll be hard to stop using it.
Yeah. That brings me, another question, but we have plugins in Copilot for security to reach out to sources. This could be first party or third party. I know it's super easy to create that plugin and but could you also already have data in the Logic app or like some scenarios that would not work in the standalone experience that you know?
Yeah. This is way to overcome like the plugin that is not there. You can do a direct API call with some product that we still don't have a plugin. And the best practice even is not to use plugin. If you can retrieve the data in other ways than versus plugin, it will save you money. Yeah, it will save you data. So yeah, you're right.
So now my question to you, Yaniv. Anything I forgot to ask? Anything you would like to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
So I'm just asking from the audience to be even skeptical. So not all the operation is LLM worthy. We need to be judgmental if the way that you are going to VirusTotal, is it makes sense to do it with LLM, or you can do it natively API. Remember, LLM, large language model with Copilot, can be more expensive than a native API call. So merging together and put the right action in the right time only for LLM, this will be cost effective and will bring you the best value versus money as a result.
Wow, thank you. I think that was an important closure. So thank you both for being my experts on today's episode. I need to watch this and again. This is so cool. I think it's probably one of my favorite deep dives here. Thank you. And I hope I see you all soon. And everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed it as well. Bye-bye.